Oh, I think. Oh.
No encuentro usted me lo dice, pero sí, pero yo se escribe B-A-T-I-K. B-A-T-I-K. Usted lo tiene que buscar en Google.
Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform, and we started at the onset of COVID. So we are very happy to come to you today. We started at the onset of COVID, and it has indeed been a journey, an incredible journey, a very important journey. We have gone through from the COVID pandemic, Black Lives Matter, the killing of so many, the election, the insurrection, marches on Washington. It's just been quite a journey, and we are still here. And the importance is we know that knowledge is power. So it's very critical and very important that we continue to bring the information, because often in our community, our news is just not covered. And it's important that we tell our own stories, because often the story is not told properly. And there are so many things that are going on that need attention. Today is a very, very, very special show. I have the honor of having with us today as our special guest, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams. And Miss Adams is the head and co-founder of HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. And this is very near and dear to me. I'm a community activist, community media person. I'm on Community Board 10, which covers Central Harlem. However, just 1 month ago today, on November 5th, my own son, okay, my birth son, our Harlem son, Ali Wisdom, was a victim of gun violence. He was cut down on the Shinnecock Reservation in Southampton, New York, excuse me, which is actually another family space. We have relatives out there. He's grown up part of his time out there in Sag Harbor. So it's very critical, and it shows across the board when I speak of Harlems and Harlems of the world, that these are places where people of color reside, people that are having lots of struggles, people of high cultural and spiritual, so it's just very significant this has happened. So Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, if you would just introduce yourself to the Harlem audience and the Harlems of the world, and share just a bit about what your organization is and how and why it was founded, and some of the things that are on your plate for today. And as I said, I'm just honored, and it's been a comfort losing my son to be able to know that there's a HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E., and just grateful to all of the community which my son was bred and born in, that is supporting me in this. And I don't say, you know, with me, this happening to me, that you got the wrong one. I say you got the right one, because I'm not going to let my son or anybody else's life be in vain. This is a call to action.
That's right.
Not a reaction, but a call to action. So Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, if you would just introduce yourself, let us know who you are and whose you are. And thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Terry. I was sitting here getting emotional a little. And you know why I was getting emotional, Terry? Because as a mother who lost 2 kids to gun violence, I'm proud to be here, to sit here and look at the strength that you are demonstrating. You are an example for so many others. Jackie Rowe Adams, co-founder of HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E, is sitting here with one of the mothers that's now in our club that we didn't choose. We didn't choose this club, Terry. But you know what? We laugh, we cry, but we move forward. And you are moving forward. And I thank God that He is giving you the strength and the health that you need. So you are definitely an example of what we are working with. And who I am and whom's I am is nothing but God. Only God is leading the way for you and me and so many others. We, as you know, we have a support group. And the reason I started this support group is because 2006, well, let me just back up. I lost 2 kids. Tyrone, first Anthony. Anthony was 17 years old, so many years ago. Seemed just like yesterday.
Wow.
Tyrone, 16 years later, he got killed. He was 28. A 13-year-old killed my son.
Wow.
And I want everybody to hear this. A 13-year-old killed my son. After losing my second son, Tyrone, I'm still in shock. I really am. Because you are not ready for that. You are it's still in disbelief, and I laugh, I cry, Terry. But you know what? I realized I couldn't bring my 2 kids back. So I decided I had a choice. We have choices, Terry. We can either choose to live or die, or to save another life. So I decided to live. I decided, since we couldn't bring our kids back, to try to help another mother, another family from feeling the hurt and pain that I was feeling. So 2006, I called some other moms that I knew that lost their children. And I said, enough is enough with all this gun violence. 2006, it was a lot of shootings and killings. It was like on the Memorial Day. And I said, enough is enough. What are we going to do about this? We can't keep blaming the police. We can't keep blaming the schools. We can't keep blaming the churches. We can't keep blaming the legislators. We have to take back our kids. We have to take back our community. And this was 2006. And I called some moms and said, who are we going to talk to help us stop some of this gun violence and shine a light on it and pay attention and let people know what's going on, and then see if we could stop some of this violence that's killing our children. So we went into Assemblyman Keith Wright's office. We called Keith Wright. At that time, he was the assemblyman. 5 mothers, including myself, went into Assemblyman Keith Wright's office. And this is a true story. In 2006, and said, help, help, crying all over the carpet in his office. And he started crying too. And he really did. And he said, because we were just crying, he said, oh, we're so sick and tired of being sick and tired of all this gun violence, all these kids killing each other. And he said, okay. I said, we need help. He said, okay. Immediately, real story. He said, before y'all do anything, y'all need a name for your,
Okay.
said for your organization. So his staff came up along with him with the name. And that's how we got Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E, Stop Another Violent End. He said, now that we have a name, he said, they threw out several names. He said, now that we have a name, now I need to make a call, because I'm gonna see if we could go stand on the steps of City Hall and call a question of who giving our kids these guns.
Right, absolutely.
He made a call, and guess who he called? And this is so, I tell you, it's so real. He called the 100 Black law enforcement. At that time, Terry, Eric Adams was the head of the 100 Black law enforcement. He was a sergeant then, but he was the president.
Okay, thank you for sharing that piece of history and information. It's quite ironic. And for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. And today we have the honor of having Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, the co-founder of Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E. And she's just telling us about the journey. And I am one of the newest members of Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E. And as Miss Jackie Rowe Adams said, this is not a club that you want to join, but I too lost my son to gun violence exactly 1 month ago. So this is a healing for me and a healing for the community and all those that have lost, because it's not my personal son. I consider that my son was a son of Harlem and all the communities that he belonged to. So thank you so much, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, for joining us. And as many of you know, you can join us every Sunday at 4 o'clock. Harlem Network News, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, YouTube, and soon to be Manhattan Neighborhood Network News. So please continue, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams. You were telling us about how the organization was formed and how you were joining with some of the Black officers, police officers, and that ironically, our new mayor-elect, Eric Adams, was the head of that association. So please continue.
Yes, he was. And we stood on the steps of City Hall. I got the picture from 2006.
Okay. Wow.
I wish I had it.
Wow.
And called the question, who's giving our kids these guns? How are these kids getting these guns? And it's so ironic that it's still happening today, worse than ever. Yeah. So guess what? We found out and called in the question that it was 2 bodegas in Harlem. And I want people to hear this because it's still going on. At that time, 2006, in Harlem, 2 bodegas in Harlem were selling guns. They were under investigation. So once we called a question and the 100 Black law enforcement got involved, they had to shed a light on it. They found out 2 bodegas, the good watermelon truck that was coming from down south, selling watermelon and collard greens, was selling guns on 7th Avenue out of the watermelon truck.
Wow.
And this is some history, and this is real. And this was 2006.
Thank you for sharing, because as much as I'm involved with the community and have lived in Harlem all my adult life and think I'm in the know, that's why we have a Harlem Network News, because knowledge is power. Please continue, Ms. Jackie.
So after finding that out, that's when we start moving forward with Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E. So we have 5 moms. Now, what do? We educate, we do prevention. We just try to save lives. We've been fighting to end gun violence and advocating for families that was affected by the trauma that violence brings. And you know, because you have been affected.
Yes, absolutely.
We have bereavement counseling. We have a successful support group every Monday every first
Monday.
Monday of the month. We started off with 5 mothers, Terry. Now we have 50 plus mothers and fathers. And it's growing and growing. We have a doctor to come in, Dr. John Palmer, been with us since 2008, 2007. Doing bereavement counseling, we do peer-to-peer. We deal with the trauma that the families are going through. We go out and we go to the schools and we talk to these children now that the schools are back. But before schools closed, we were out there on the ground talking to the families, talking to the kids. We talked to the families and told them, when you go home, check your house. Look under your mattress. Look in your children's book bag when they leave that house. Know who your children's friends are. All this is so important. And don't you know, one of the parents went home and checked his kid's backpack, and don't you know he found a gun in it?
Wow. Yeah.
So this information is key. So just like we are fighting right now, Terry, we got to get some of these guns off the street. We have to get these guns off the street. We're dealing with trafficking, illegal guns coming into our community. It is unacceptable, parents. The families have to get more involved. The families, Terry, as you know, have to stop saying, no, not my child. Yes,
Right.
your child.
Yes.
You have to pay attention, and everybody's your child. We have to take ownership of our children.
Absolutely.
These illegal guns is coming in here, getting in our kids' hands. And we're saying, oh no, because the police is killing us. We killing us, Terry. The police doing their shit.
I'm clear. And for those of you who are just joining, this is Harlem Network News. And I am speaking with Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, who is a co-founder of the organization HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. And it's been in existence since about 2006. And HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. does incorporate both mothers and fathers. And some of the initiatives, it's activism, education, victim services, but they are working hard to get the guns off the street and also to educate parents so they can be clear as to what is going on with their child. So we have a lot to contend with. And I do believe that it's very clear that COVID and other circumstances have just, made this a front street situation.
Yes.
It always was, but you would think that if this organization and the work has been being done, and Eric Adams, our new elect mayor at the time, was, head of Black police officers organization that was targeted at this. But we have a different time that's going on now. COVID has exacerbated it. Absolutely. And there are so many things in the world that are wrong that truly need to be righted, that it's just come to fruition again, which means that we have to stand up and we have to deal with it. And none of us are exempt. Somebody said at my son Ali Wisdom's wake, oh, you checked all the boxes. Like, he was a part of the community. He went to Harlem School of the Arts. He, played Harlem Little League. You sent him to an alternative school. You checked all of the boxes. But even with checking the boxes, the streets are mean. They can swallow up your child, get them involved in something or not. Or they could just be an innocent victim of someone else's gun and circumstance.
Absolutely.
So nobody's exempt. You don't know when this may come for you. And all of us have a backstory, but we have a lot of work and cleanup to do in our community. And some of it is not even us, as Miss Jackie Rowe Adams spoke about the guns coming into our community. Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, I know that you're on top of these things with your organization, and obviously you have a lot of relationships that you've built since 2006, but what is the circumstance and what is happening and how are we dealing with the guns coming into our community? Because some of it is a gun mentality, but some of it is even when these tragedies happen that we're not able to find out who did it. We're dealing with a consciousness of snitches get stitches. You got kids who are scared and that's why they're bringing a gun. So it's a complicated and complicit situation that brings us to this horror.
I'm so glad you said that, and I'm so glad you asked me that. Well, first of all, I work very, very, very closely with the police. We could say, no, we don't want to bother with the police. We need the police because the police do have some of the answers to the questions, but the police rely on a community. A lot of these people now, Terry, a lot of these young people that's getting shot and not dying, they're not telling on who shot them. They're not telling because, and that's a big problem. That problem really trickles down to the police because the police is out there trying to find your shooter and you're not telling them you know who your shooter is. So their hands are tied. The other thing is just like you said, oh, I'm not a snitch. No, this ain't snitching. This saving a life in your life too. Right, if you shoot me, I'm telling. So the community, people be looking, we even have our adults. We could be on here all night, you know, talking about this because we have our adults that's looking out the window, know who did it, right? But they're not talking about the snitching. It is so out of control now. It's time for the community to step up and start talking. You don't have to be out in the forefront, but you could drop that dime. You have to, and the community been doing a little better because they're sick and tired. The police been catching some of these shooters and killers because the community started stepping up. Because every day, as we sit here now, somebody getting shot or killed right here in Harlem or in Brooklyn or Bronx. Enough is enough. Then the other piece, you touched on it earlier. Well, I work closely with the police, but you know what? I also work closely with different organizations, such as Harlem Chamber of Commerce, the Harlem Week. I work very closely with WARM, which is an organization that deals with domestic violence. A lot of these shootings and killings is from domestic violence. That COVID really took over when you had to stay in the house and you got to know your family and you realize, I don't like this child, I don't like my brother, I don't like my cousin. And a lot of violence took place. People have to think about it. They didn't believe it when I said, let me tell y'all something. Cousins, friends that was in the same household or even around the corner, they started fighting and killing and shooting each other. A lot of this COVID. It became a lot of domestic violence. And I have moms from domestic violence that's in our organization that was referred to us from WARM.
Right. And, so, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, interrupt.
But please, for those listeners, because one of the things that we stay on with Harlem Network News is knowledge is power. So please, please, please tell us what is WARM. And I definitely have had Stephanie McGraw on. So just share a little bit about what the WARM organization is, because we do have organizations here that can assist. And we want to make sure that everybody is aware. You know, something happens. And this is one of the things that, you know, has really assisted me. If something has happened to me or my family, I speak about it to friends. I speak about it to church members. I speak about it to everyone. And when you do that, you find out where you can get some assistance. Like there's, organizations that help with the formerly incarcerated. You know, there's all kinds of things. And a lot of times people don't say things because they feel ashamed or they feel it's only you. But trust me, when you start saying what's happening in your family, no matter what it is, domestic violence, formerly incarcerated, and you start talking to people, that's when you're going to get some information and some support. So there is no secrets or shame or any of that that is necessary, because none of us is untouched and none of us can cast that first stone. We can't do it.
We can't do it.
So continue, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams.
So WARM is an organization that's led by Stephanie McGraw. WARM is domestic violence. That's the acronym WARM. I'm losing sight of what the name. But anyway, it's a great organization. So when domestic violence take place, like for men and women, if you feel that you're being abused, beat up, abuse could be, hey, my husband or my boyfriend, and this took place during the COVID, yelling at me, beating up the kids, WARM is an organization where you reach out to. I'm sorry, I don't have the number right now.
Right, I'll make sure that I get it.
Absolutely. You can reach out to WARM, Stephanie McGraw, and they'll make sure that it's like the CIA. They make sure that they place you in a safe position. They make sure that you're taken care of. And if you're serious about not getting abused anymore, or you feel that your life is getting ready to be taken, you call them and they will make sure you're safe. And they work closely with the police department. They work closely with social services, and they work closely with HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. It's very key. But, and Terry, something else you touched on, which our parents, we have to stop thinking our kids cannot get in trouble. They are good kids, some of our kids, but the people they hang with, you have to pay attention to their friends. If your son say, or your daughter say, oh, Mom, I'm going to my friend's house. Hey, don't be afraid. Even my son is 40-something years old, and he still tell me who he's going to hang out with. Okay?
Right. Yes.
Because this world today is terrible. Find out, get a phone number, something. Where who's your friend? Give me a number, something in case, because this world, it's not that you checking on them or you treating them like a baby or what, but it's unsafe today. It's not like when we were coming up. You have to know, and you have to get involved with your children. You have to keep them engaged. You have to go to those schools and find out what's going on. If you don't keep your kids engaged, they're going to be in trouble, because you got friends out there, they think that they're friends, and they're jealous of your child. So they're going to take that gun or that drugs. Let's talk about drugs. A lot of these kids are taking drugs. They're going to take those drugs and tell your kid, oh, hold it, because your child want to be in the in crowd. And innocent is don't know what's going on, but they want to be in the in crowd. You have to check all this out. And a lot of times this happens. Your child get caught up in something that they had no intention by hanging out with the wrong people. Oh, that's my friend. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's your associate. And just maybe pay attention, because sometimes we tell our kids and we be hard on, they think we be hard. So we got to find ways of telling them, it's a very serious time right now.
Yes. Yes.
And innocent people are getting killed. And that's the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's important for us to tell what's going on in our community. If you see something, say something. I'm a real stickler of that. A lot of robberies now, because it's the holiday. You see the young man, our kids now, it's not safe walking down the street in Columbia University. They see the young man just got killed. We have to look at the whole big picture. And let's talk about Harlem.
The picture
we really
is
have
hard.
to look at the big picture. Now, I want to say the community boards, like Community Board 10, Community Board 9, I mean, y'all been out there on the ground. You're keeping your ear close, because this stuff is unacceptable. Look at Hazel. Hazel worked very closely. Hazel, Mama Dukes, everybody that don't know, from NAACP, Janine Blackman, everybody, Chanique, work very closely. They out there on the street working with our organization, because we're trying to save these kids and we're trying to take back our community. And it takes a village. Folks, listen, it takes a village. It does.
It absolutely does. This is Harlem Network News, and we are talking today with Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, who is the co-founder of Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E. And though it is Harlem Mothers S.A.V.E., it also includes the fathers. And this organization is a new organization that I'm joining, new for me. It's been around since 2006. But as many of you know, 1 month ago to this day, my son, Ali Wisdom, is a victim of gun violence. So unfortunately, I'm having to join this club. I have been aware of the Miss Jackie Rowe Adams and all of the other services here in Harlem. I'm a community activist, I'm about media, but now this has touched and hit home for me personally. And I cannot share enough how much I've gone over what happened and why it happened. And at this point, with my son, whoever did this is still on the loose. So that is extremely concerning. So not only when you become a family, because mother, but a family of a victim of gun violence, you also are now having to deal with not the grief, not the finance, not the expense, not all the things for the rest of the family, but you're also having to deal with the crime and the investigation. Yes, yes. So Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, if you would share a little bit about, you know, the support that's there for these families, the victim services that are maybe available to families, because all of these things are critical. And, you know, the same way that you just said, if you see something, say something. It's like, even if something is happening to you, speak out, because I do believe, and I'm very clear, that if we are working as a village and we're working collectively, we are stronger. You know, there are things that are coming into our community that Miss Jackie Rowe Adams spoke about. The guns, we're not making money from them. They're coming in, and this is how our children, our young people, grown people are getting these guns to kill one another. We also have the drugs that's coming hand in hand into our community. Yes. And our children and our grown people, we have a drug epidemic more than ever here in Harlem. They just brought a legitimate shooting gallery into Harlem. You know, if people need to use drugs or if they need to get a pen because they had drugs. And there's a lot of thought and controversy about this, because we already have several of the methadone centers and, you know, treatment centers here in Harlem. We have more than other communities do. So the question is, can we handle this? And what does this do to the quality of life? Because some of the people that are in the treatment programs, they don't even live here. You know what I'm saying? So we have a lot of complicities that our community is bringing to us that comes to the quality of life. And as you said, every day somebody's being shot. And just this week, a Columbia graduate student was stabbed by a random person. So we have a lot going on. And the question is, how much can one community handle and how can we deal with it? But I think if we come together, even with some of our young people that have gone rogue, if we come to that person as a group, we're stronger than as we come as a single mother or a parent that may not have the personal strength because they're overwhelmed with life to do that. So you might want to comment on that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, back then in the day, Terry, and I'm probably much older than you.
I don't think.
Back in the day, my mother, our parents looked out the window. And if, hey, listen, when I did something wrong, you had somebody say, Jackie, I'm going to tell Hermina on you. That's my mother's name. We got to bring that back. Everybody looked out for everybody's kids. We couldn't get away with just hanging out in the street and doing anything. Another family member, another parent took charge and said, you better get your butt home. You know you're not supposed. This is what we have to get back to. We cannot continue to say, no, not my child. And that's not my child, and I don't care. Only way we're going to take back our kids. If you see my child in the street, Terry, talk to him. We have to, each one, you know that slogan, each one teach one, Bob McCullough started. Absolutely. Each one teach one. We have to take up, this is a good start. Let's talk about urgency. What could we do? What is the urgency that when our mayor start on January 1st, what is the urgency to get these guns off the street? What is the urgency to have to talk about public safety? What do we have to do to help him? This is an urgency. We have to think about now, this is some serious times. How are we going to help the new mayor coming in, take back our communities and take back our street? And I just want to say that's important. And I'm looking for answers on this. What is the urgency? How can we stop this gun violence? We don't need one person to think. We need everybody to think. And this is so serious. So I am on the transition team for Mayor-elect Eric Adams.
Okay.
For gun violence. And trust me, we have to come up with some urgency plans because day one, we want him on it, boots on the ground, and then let's start fixing these problems. It ain't gonna happen overnight, but at least it's a start. And we have to come up with that because this is where we live. We gotta work and help our new mayor and our community. The other piece, Terry, is you're so right. It takes a village. It takes all of us to stop. If you see these kids hanging on the stoop, smoke, okay. And the bad thing is this weed, this new thing for the weed.
Right.
I think that was the wrongest thing they could come up with. It could have been done better. These kids are smoking this weed and you don't know what's in it. And it's making them lose their minds. Yeah. So we got to walk in our community now, smelling this smell, our little babies, are smelling this and they're getting immune. And how are we going to save the kids, the new generation, if we don't put some kind of moratorium on something? Because this is that's why. So we have to think about that too. Let's talk about mental illness. Lenox Avenue. Lenox Avenue, that's a good example when you talk about these clinics. Lenox Avenue on 124th, 125th. And
absolutely.
It's out of control. How do we deal with that community? We have to start standing up and speaking out because it's not going to be safe for us to walk up the street for nothing. People, some of this homeless got their clothes all laid out, they naked, I don't even have to go through all that. But what are we going to do about it? And what we thought that it was a lot of money out there. I thought it was money put into these programs because for the mental illness, I think the mental illness is being downplayed. I don't think it's being taken serious enough.
Right.
So we're going to have to begin. All of that is public safety. All of that is the stabbings and the shootings and the beatings, and it's just out of control. So we have to talk about all of that combined. So that's what we're dealing with, Terry. And I'm so glad for this show.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so glad for this show. And I'm glad that you are a woman of wisdom, a woman of courage. And you know what? I'm so glad that you recognize you need help, you need support. Because one of the things, a lot of the things that Harlem Mothers do, see, everybody don't know our pain, but we know each other's pain. We done been through this. We know your pain. We know what you're going through. If you tell us that you saw your son standing over you, we say, we know. You tell somebody else that they ready to commit you in suicide.
Right.
So yeah. And so these are the stories you hear. We got some stories. But that's why we are a support group, because we know the pain, we know what you're going through. Everybody grieves differently, but we know how to bring you back because everybody got a story. Like I say, we started off with 5 moms. Now we have 50 plus mothers and fathers. We meet every first Monday at 306 West 128th Street, 306A, West 128th Street, between St. Nicholas and 8th Avenue. We bring in guest speakers, we bring in the nurses. Some of the things, we have resources for you. We have connection with the DA's office, we could refer you. And as you alluded to earlier, crime victim services, we help you if you get put out. We know who to call, and we deal with all 5 boroughs.
Excellent.
All 5 boroughs. our organization, a lot of the people come from the Bronx, Brooklyn. We even, for a minute before the COVID start, had somebody from Staten Island coming regular.
Okay.
So now that things is opening back up, we're in person, but we are a resource. We could help you with cold cases. We call in the detectives and we let them speak and find out who killed your son. We have been so successful. And I have to give kudos to Chief Rodney Harrison. He started this.
Thank you.
He started this family crime victim services for families. And he had all his detectives come out, talk to the different families that have cold cases. And we're doing good with that. So anyone who lost a loved one and need to know and say they have not found the murderer yet, please come to us, call Terry, and we'll be already.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Call Terry and we'll get on the case.
Reach right out to HARLEMNetworkNews.com.
Please.
You can also reach us directly, as you know, at 646-261-5397. And this is Harlem Network News, and we, as you know, are a new media platform. Please join us, support us. We really do our best to bring the information to you. And as many of you know, as I have just shared, that I lost my son to gun violence. And really it was an assassination style. So we don't know who did it. We don't know why they did it. And it's a very critical thing. And I know, as Miss Jackie Rowe Adams stated, as mothers, when something happens to our child, we look back over what did we do? What should we have done? What could we have done? You know, you play these tapes back in our mind.
The blame game.
Yeah, because we all start on an equal platform, and the majority of parents really want the best for their children and do the best for their children. But in this world where there are a lot of disparities, there are a lot of imbalances, economic, health, all of the disparities, particularly in our communities of color, you're fighting a lot of wars. It's a war to save your own life, and it's a war to save the lives of your children. And pretty much, I just say that my son is a casualty of war. That's what that is, the war that we're fighting. And we're fighting so there won't be more casualties. And some of the issues and concerns that we have raised, which we have to speak about, as many of the people speak about, speaking truth to power. And the truth to power is we have a problem with guns coming into our community. We have a problem with mental health. We have an overwhelming problem with incarceration in our community. There are more Black and brown people that are incarcerated than ever. And if you talk to anybody, and I can stand up, I can raise my hand and say that my son was formerly incarcerated. And that's a whole nother club to belong to. I'm a proud member of the Abyssinian Baptist Church. We have an Exodus ministry, and sitting in that ministry and trying to help others. I have seen many people who have come and they've been incarcerated for 29, 30 years, 40 years. I mean, it's unconscionable. And we all have seen the Rikers story. And we all know that a lot of the people that are incarcerated do have mental health issues, do have drug issues. We know that even when they are incarcerated, where they're a captive audience, they're not getting the help that they need. And I understand that we do have laws that say, you know, if you're not a threat to yourself or somebody else or whatever it is, and if you don't want help, you're not going to get help. But I'm not really a practitioner of that. It is free will. But I know I talked to a sister the other day, and she was telling me that, you know, her brother had in the Lower East Side had overdosed 3 times in 1 week. And they take him to the hospital. They shoot him with the pen, and they let him come back out because he doesn't want to stay or get help. No. This is crazy because this impacts our entire community. And if we do get the help, it needs to be the right kind of help.
That's
But
right.
help is needed because right now we are living in a Babylonic society, and it's impacting all of us.
Yes.
And you can't sit in your little tower and think, oh, it's not my child, because it could be your child, whether they're involved in something or not. And given some of the laws, your child could get arrested and they might not have done anything. And when they get in there, you know, maybe they didn't have the bail. And I know there's groups that are working to get that bail reform, but there are people that have been in there and then stuff has happened to them and they've come out and they've been so distraught, they committed suicide there or committed suicide here, or, you know, so we have a lot of work to do. And I think we have to speak on it and we have to do it because it is real. So if you wanted to just add to that.
So I'm glad you touched on, because that was my next subject. I'm fighting to tweak bail reform. And it's some of these innocent kids that's been shooting about, that's been sitting in Rikers, a disgrace. Now that's what the bail reform that they came up with. It should have, you know, went to the non-violent crimes. And the non-violent crime people were sitting in that jail for a long time.
Mm-hmm. My
belief is, when you talk about jumping the turnstile or picking up a piece of paper, soda or something, come on, let's have some bail reform. But when you talk about us killing each other and all these guns, now that becomes something different.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we have to make sure that they get it right. Mm-hmm. They get it right. So we're going to Albany on December 9th. Hopefully some people could join us. If you believe in getting that bail reform tweak, that we don't allow, and we need to let our shooters and killers and people that's carrying these guns, that's using them, know that there is consequences. They cannot continue to do this. And that's why we're going to Albany, to let the legislators know that have not experienced this, that we cannot make it easy for these shooters to go out, kill somebody or shoot somebody, go back to jail, then come back out. A lot of this violence, and I've been doing statistics, a lot of this violence and shootings have been done by some of these young people that's been in 3 and 4 times for gun violence, and they're back out in the street. Some people say, no, because it's our Black and brown kids. Well, our Black and brown kids are killing each other. Mm-hmm. So they got to know some kind of consequences. No, I'm not saying bring back stop and frisk, because that was a disaster. But what I am saying, we got to put in a mechanism. We got to do something, because this cannot continue. So we're going to the legislators December 9th. Bus will leave from in front of HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E.
Okay.
At 8 o'clock that morning. NYPD is going to get us a bus to go out there and say, yes, give bail reform to these law offenses. They should not be sitting in no jail, but let's tweak it to whereas you monitor, let's talk about raise the age, that you monitor these, that the judges be allowed to make decisions, you know, get back in the benches, but monitor the judges, okay?
Thank you. Very important.
That judges in the youth part, in the family court, really examine the records of these youth. They're not examining the records of these youth when they appear in front of the, you know, a lot of stuff we lost, you know, we just lost sight. They're not looking at the records of these youth, especially first-time offenders. So it's a lot of stuff that need to be tweaked with the bail reform, but absolutely not hold these kids that just was walking down the street and might have dropped a piece of paper and you're going to give them a fine and say, let me lock them up. No, I'm not with that. But I am with right now, what do we do, Terry, with these kids as you walking down the street? Not only kids, these young adults shooting and innocent people getting killed. What is the consequences? Now that's the question.
Yeah, there are so many questions, and I'm so glad. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is HARLEM Network News, and we're nearing the end of our program for today. If you missed it here on Facebook Live, it will stay up on Harlem Network News, and it will also be on YouTube later this evening for broader access. Please share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that we do exist and the information is here. Miss Jackie Rowe Adams of HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. just shared with us that she is on the mayor's transition team. Okay.
And I'm sorry, Terry, and
Yes.
also I'm on the DA, the new DA, Alvin Bragg
Okay.
transition team too on guns.
Okay. Okay, so this is very critical that key people in the community that have been doing the work, that know what has to happen on these transition teams, so that we can really begin to make some change. You know, public officials, we have to reach out to them. We have to assure that they're accountable. Sometimes people at the top, and I know it's not somebody like an Alvin Bragg, he knows what's going on in our Harlem community and in New York City community. He has had the experience, so he knows and he understands. You know, I trust that our new mayor, Eric Adams, knows and understands some of what is going on. So within the legislature and everything that we can do, we are responsible for holding our public officials feet to the fire, getting ourselves involved, which is difficult because most of us are overwhelmed just with living. But as we can see, it can come to your doorstep just like it came to mine with the loss of my son to gun violence, you know. And so we have to do the work. And as you know, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams said, if we don't do the work, I don't know who is going to do it. We've got to take responsibility. We've got to take back our communities. I think it's very important, and this is a message that I would like to give to all families, all parents. We know that we have a lot of what I call broken families, and it's okay to say that, where the mother and the father are not together, or the father's not in place, or the mother's not in place. So I just implore to all of you parents, whatever's going on with you personally, you know, arguing or whatever it is, please, please put your children first.
Yes.
Your children need you. You know, particularly, we have a great absence of males in the home here in our communities for whatever the reasons are. A lot of our males are incarcerated, but whatever it is, you know, do what you can to be there for your children. They need you.
Yes.
Whatever your condition is, if you don't have the money, that's okay, but try to be there as much as you can for your children, because I believe that will make a difference. And I believe that as the family has become more broken and more broken, we're having more crime and more crime. And there's less and less commitment, everybody, somebody, baby mama, and all this kind of stuff. We got to look at who we are, whose we are, and we've got to fix what's broken, because this is our legacy.
Yes.
So if you would just speak briefly to that, and we know we could keep talking.
Yeah.
We could continue the conversation, but there is much work to be done. I would like to give kudos to all the many people, the community organizations that supported me, the public officials, you know, Congressman S.A.V.E and his staff have been stellar, you know, just in terms of reaching out to departments of Interior, to FBI, to try to help get on this. This is direct action, and this is what we expect. I've had our assembly member, Reverend Al Taylor, spoke at my son's wake, as did Reverend Dietrich Blue, as did, you know, our borough president, Gail Brewer, you know, Athena Moore, her chief of staff. This is showing that people are active in what is happening. And that's really what we all have to be. We all got to answer our phone. You know, one thing I can say about Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, you know, we know each other, you know, kind of circular from the community, but I called her and she answered the phone and is sharing with me what she has to offer. Accountability. We got to be accountable, because if we're not, we have nothing. And we also have to look at the impact, and we got to look at it now, the impact of music on our children.
Yes.
There's so much talking about killing, is sexual explicitity, and 5-year-olds are walking around singing these songs. They don't even know what they're singing. And we have to look at this because it's not just a freedom of expression. There are big moguls that are pushing this music to impact us psychologically and mentally. And the same goes with the whole drug game.
Yes.
So we have a lot to deal with, and we've got to say it. Maybe we're not going to be popular, but we've got to say it. I don't want to see anybody else lose their child the way I did. And also, as we are people of color, when something happens to us, even if we were a victim, I don't want to know about my son, Ali Wisdom, and what the backstory is, because he had great backstories and he had other kind of backstories like we all do. But this was not about any backstory. This is about somebody just shooting and killing and assassinating, and nobody is deserving of that.
That's
So
right.
we need to speak, and
That's right.
we don't need to bastardize our children or our people if something happens and then, you know, the news or whoever starts saying, well, they must have did something wrong, you know, and that's how we are looked at, as if we are, you know,
Yes,
second-class citizens that must have did something because something happened to us.
That's right.
So if you would just give us some thoughts and closing and feedback, where we can get in touch with you.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So when you touched on, you know, I want to talk about relationship with clergy. It's so important that we partner with clergy. And I am partnered with clergy. The clergy been doing a lot of marches and rallies around this violence. Pastor Stacey Ramos from that heads up some of the clergy. We've been marching with her. We've been marching with my pastor, Reverend Ronald Sullivan, our church Christian parish. I've been working closely with Reverend Butts. Matter of fact, just today, he announced and thanked our organization for the work that we're doing out there. And so many others, Reverend Jock DeGraff from Canaan, you know, a lot of pastors and clergy is really taking this real serious. And we, you know, the door's been closed in these churches. Now we're getting back to they could open the doors again. And I encourage people, we have to stay on our knees and pray. We have to stay on our knees and pray, because Lord knows we need prayer. But what I want to say is, hopefully someone will want to come on the 9th and get on the bus and let our voices be heard. I hate Albany, and I hate traveling. But you know what? I'm going because I'm always complaining about the bail reform and this and that. So now we're going to go up there and have an opportunity to let our voices be heard. Again, 8 o'clock, the bus will leave at 8 o'clock from HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. office. That's 128th Street between 8th and 8th and St. Nicholas. Please call Terry, please call and and if you forget the information, my number, our office number is 212-234-0112. 212-234-0112. Parents, take back your kids. Take back your community. All the kids are your kids. And let's pay attention to what our families and what our communities are doing in our blocks, in our neighborhood, because we have to live here. We don't want another life taken. If we could save another life, our children's lives will not be in vain that we lost. And I want to thank you, Terry. I want you to keep up this good work. And I'm glad that you're coming with us, but I'm sad it had to be this way. And we didn't choose this club.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. And we're going to begin to close. Miss Jackie Rowe Adams is actually going to be on another show, one of our favorite shows this evening, and that is the Imhotep Gary Bird show. And she's going to be on, and so you'll have the opportunity to hear more about HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. and what we're doing with the gun violence. And the show, I believe, airs on WBAI radio. That's 99.5. It's going to come on at about 6 o'clock. And Gary Bird, Imhotep Gary Bird is one of our mainstays, a great mentor to me in this media business, and someone of great respect that's been doing the work for years. So tune into that.
I'm on with Dr. John Palmer. Dr. John Palmer.
Okay. Well, excellent. And, the great thing is with this social media and, being online, if you miss it live, you can usually pick it back up and you can, share it with others. So it's very critical. I just want to also give tribute to Miss Maria A. Davis.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Big up to her.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Yes.
She's the greatest.
Yes, she's incredible. And she was scheduled to join us today, but she needed to conserve her energy. She has started a new podcast. It's called Can't Be Silenced. And she will be on tomorrow on her website, Can't Be Silenced. You can join on Facebook or also on Zoom. You can reach out and inbox her so you can get a code to do that. She has been doing great work with HIV for many, many years. And now she has turned it onto this podcast. So as you can see, people are doing the work. She asked me to share a bit about Iris House, which is on 7th by, I think it's 138th and 137th. And the same thing with COVID, get tested. Well, with HIV and AIDS, get tested as well. She wanted to just share that message. And yesterday she had a wonderful pop-up at Harlem Haberdashery, in lieu of the, annual, tributes and information to AIDS. So we have a lot of people in our community that are doing the work. Harlem Network News is a part of that. We implore you to reach out to us to make any donations that you can to Harlem Network News, as well as contributions of information, because once again, we know that knowledge is indeed power. So very, very critical. And like I said, ever since my son's transition, I have been continuing to do this work and to dedicate, these Harlem Network News shows to him in his honor. We are working on a scholarship fund. He was an alumni of Howard University, classmate of Chadwick Boseman, many, many, many things, but it's important. And that scholarship fund will be not for the 4.0 students, but for the 2.0. And there's a mentoring component that'll go with it, because I think it's very critical. So we're going to, I think we covered everything we need to cover. I do have the number for WARM, which is Stephanie McGraw's organization, which has to do with women or men who are experiencing domestic violence. And that number is 917-736-0680. And that is the organization WARM. So I think we're off to a good start. As Marcus Garvey said, when there's a circumstance, and I'm paraphrasing, that will make us really spring into action. So I do know and feel that we have had to spring into action with the conditions and things that happened to us. So with this death of my son, I've always been in action, but I've had to spring more into the action that I was in and get active and roll up my sleeves. And I'm glad to roll up my sleeves because I know that it's not just me. It has to do with every single person, every single person. And it could be anybody. They don't have to be involved in anything. It's just could be anybody. So, we just have to be conscious and we have to be clear of that. So, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, if you will, And I learned something whenever I have folks coming on. I always look at, you know, what did they do and who are they in life? And I didn't realize that you were a singer and Mama, I Want to Sing and so many things. So if you would just pray us out, share us out, and let us just have this moment. And thank you, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams, as I, you know, share my screen and share my son, son of Harlem.
And thank you too. And let me just take a moment and say, to God be the glory for the great things that we are doing and for the great things that he have done. All we could do is take one day at a time. Strengthen yourself, Lord. Give us the strength. And I thank God for my sister, Terri. Lord, continue to give her the strength. Lead her and guide her as she travel along. And I thank you again, Terri. And I want everybody to remember that. Get the strength, give you the strength, because I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. And I would just say that we're very grateful for you. And our mantra and our mission is, and the greatest gift of all is love. And so we must never forget that, and just not be judgmental and just come together. And like I said, I'm very excited. We learned things that you are a part of that transition team with Mayor Eric Adams. And I'm interested to find out who else is on the transition team and actually do a show about that, because I feel that media is a very impactful thing. And I'm doing everything that I can, even with the death of my son, and I'm having to deal with all that hand over hand. But at the same point, I'm committed to really take Harlem Network News and other of our Black medias of color to the next level, because the media greatly impacts what we think, what we see, what we hear, you know. And so it's important, the job that the media is doing. And I want to take Harlem Network to the highest heights so that many more people can listen to it. And we have a large staff that's going out and covering everything, because a lot of times things are miscovered and we must tell our own stories. So thank you, Miss Jackie Rowe Adams. We're going to let you go so that you can get on to Imhotep Gary Bird, and everybody tune in to.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will see you at the meeting of HARLEM Mothers S.A.V.E. And that's not just for mothers, tomorrow evening. And anything I can help you to do on the transition team, and just reaching out and relating. And I'm also looking to get some legislation done, you know, in terms of helping people that are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated to get that mental health, and to get it while they're a captive audience. I'm going to work towards that. And I don't see why that can't happen, because I think it could make a difference in all of our lives and in the lives of the people that are experiencing this. And, you know, also looking to have more happen in the schools. So thank you very much and have a good evening. Terri Wisdom, Harlem Network News. Take care.